Hi, beauties. I trust you are remarkable. This is Radiance. Looks like okay. Looks like I'm about ready to go here. Unfortunately, I was not able to get with Tom Anderson tonight. So if you're here for the punk show, check it out next time. Or I think he's coming back in September. That's the plan. So this evening, like Tommy just contacted me. He's like, damn, electricity is out, can't make it. So we're here, and here we go. We're just gonna go for it. So tonight, I just want to talk about gratitude for Love Coach Academy, helping out a little bit. And then, so I'm gonna use some of the tools and techniques. We're gonna talk about music for a little while tonight. And I'm really going to get into and I'm interested in reading what are the songs that really connect you, because that's what emotional intelligence, as far as true EQ presents, is all about. Like, what's going on internally? How are we connected emotionally through music? And then how do we use those as conversation pieces in order to kind of allow us to focus on different brain chemicals so that we can process information in a way that really serves humanity. So Spirituality Gone Wild, I wanted to thank them. And American Gumption, I just wanted to give a quick mention. American Gumption is a show that's coming on Spirituality Gone Wild this week. So if you can tune in, that would be wonderful. He's on in the mornings, and he has a whole host of people that he'll be interviewing every day. Super funny guy, Steve Weber. Okay, so with that, I've started here, and I've just typed out a few things regarding what is emotional intelligence, what is emotional literacy, and please feel free, like I said, to drop in your comments. I put some music down in with this that I'm really excited about, so I'm hoping that we can chat about that a little bit. All right, so we'll just drop in with what is emotional EQ, what is emotional literacy. The ideas behind it are, how are we available with emotional literacy, emotional fitness, emotional depth, and emotional alchemy. Alchemy was something that was kind of added from Love Coach Academy and Emily Oram and Steve Katamas. So emotional literacy is when you're able to be in a relationship with other people, or even with yourself, be able to diversify and know, like, what are the different areas, what's going on emotionally, internally. So that's your sadness, your anger, your fear, your empowerment, your happiness, and your peacefulness. Those kind of sit on the outside, and then on the internal core is joy. So in order to have joy, it's having full access to that huge spectrum of those emotions. And then how do we engage? Like, the next level is the feelings. So what feelings are coming up within our body, and how are we relating to those feelings? So body engagement often has to do with sympathetic and parasympathetic within your brain, and how your body is responding and corresponding to events that are happening to you, or events that you're placed in your life. For me as a musician, oftentimes I'd be like on the air, I used to be a DJ, and that was a great way for me to process what was going on when I didn't have shows. But when I would have like the massive breakups and, like you just want to, or like really somber times, music really speaks to me in those vessels. So often when I'm in this emotional place and I'm trying to figure out, like, wow, am I really angry? I might be pretty angry. What boundaries am I missing if I'm angry? How have I not spoken up? How am I playing this role of the martyr? Like, I talk about the martyr sauce often. So the martyr sauce is when I haven't spoken about my boundaries, or and then somebody kind of oversteps the boundaries, but I don't let them know directly, or I kind of let them know, but it's in an indirect way. And then I play if only you had done it this way. instead of being direct in my conversations with people. And one piece that I recognize is that early on in childhood, most people come to this place of recognizing that there's like these outside sources. There's the teachers, or there's the parents, or there's the playground, and outside events are happening to us, and we really want to be able to communicate more effectively, but for whatever reason we're not given those tools. You know, those basic communication skills are not necessarily taught within this community or within our global system yet. You kind of have to go out of your way to start looking at, oh, emotional health, what does that mean? So often people are just like, they stay in this role of major adventure is what I think about, like where people like huge toxic relationships, they're like, oh my gosh, there's so much energy here. And then like the like people are shooting down off the screen because there's so much drama. And you can kind of see that in society right now, right? There's a lot going on. There's a lot of like, we're stretching really, really far in order to gain and have more understanding and empathy for the many, many narratives that are going right now. People's truths are being revealed. Things that were suppressed for an extensive period of time are finally coming out. There's a lot of like anger. There's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of fear. And so there's like this intense, you know, like this huge build. So what do you do with all of that information? Like, what are the key resources that you're finding through music, through the arts, that help you to express what's going on internally in those internal systems? So I've taken a few. The way that I like to kind of look at it, and I'll put it in here over to the side. The way that I prefer to look at it is, how can I look at these emotions that are happening for me? Like, let's say that it's a sadness or a longing. How do I look at the longing spectrum, the sadness that's underneath the longing spectrum, and how do I take a couple of little tools like music and help me broaden what is going on for me internally? And the reason why that's important is when we're able to drop in, and like, let's say that you're going through a longing of wanting to be near people, because a lot of people are having that experience right now. They're pretty isolated. So having a really, really big dramatic way to be able to play out like that whole, like that richness in the longing. And so like amplification via music is a great way to be able to express what's going on internally. And it gives it, instead of like this isolation constriction, the feelings in the body of constriction, like, oh, I'm, like, instead of that, it's singing it at the top of your lungs kind of expansion. So I'm going to put in the first tune here, and it's going to go out. And so please check that song out. Another longing song that I found today is, well, Otis Redding has a couple of them. So I'll just post a couple of these. Hold on a moment. So I'd love to know, like, what do you long for? What kind of relationships are you longing for? And then to just like pick out a song that really resonates with you. I'm going to put this one in as well, both Otis. And what kind of like, I don't know that I've heard many longing songs. I'm sure there's a ton right now. So I'd be interested in finding out, like, what are the songs that really call to you when you're in this place of wanting a deeper connection and not having the ability to be able to resource and to be able to like find those communities where you can really connect on a much deeper level. The next one that I wanted to talk about, and I think I'll probably wrap this up a bit early tonight. I think I'll wrap this up a bit early tonight, but I'm excited about whatever you want to type in, and I will certainly get back to you. So this next one is Separation. It was by Carla Thomas from Stax. I'm just putting in some Stax artists tonight. And if you don't know who that is, look that up, because that's an important bit of history information for any musicians or any musician fans out there. Know what Stax Records is. Okay, so in emotional literacy, one of the pieces that you want, that it's really good to start looking at, is we're not looking for right or wrong. We're just looking to understand other people's narratives, and then looking internally at, wow, that's a really interesting story that the person is telling themselves. And what's going on for me internally when I'm hearing this story? So the first piece would be what's going on for me internally in terms of emotions, and then what's coming up in my body. So it's easiest for us to access this type of information when it isn't something that's directly triggering me as a human, right? It's hard for me if I'm like in it and I'm like, ah! It's hard for me to just kind of observe what's going on. But if instead I'm able to drop in when I have some time and listen to a song, and then just figure out like, wow, where am I? What is the emotion here that the singer is singing about? Where is the oxygen in my body? Can I relate to this song? Because usually there's like this draw, this captivating draw that can pull people in. When you hear a great song and you're like, oh, I love that song. So what was your song when you were being raised? When you were coming up in the world, what were some of the songs that just really drew you into that storyline? The last piece of this then is, as the music is coming in, as it's coming into our emotional place and you're listening to it, start recognizing, okay, I understand that the singer has like this core emotion going on. And just above that is what's going on externally, like where am I feeling that in my body? So this will help you in relationships, because as you're getting into a relationship, and let's say that you're in a really gorgeous relationship and it starts to stir up all of these deep emotions, the deeper you are headed into relationships with people, the more emotions will start rising up to the top, because it's a way for us to be able to grow and to be able to clear what's going on emotionally. A friend of mine, Paul Sterling, yesterday was talking about in relationships, just like if you had a computer, so often many of us, including me, have operated on an operating system that's like 35 years old or 45. Like when computers I think came out in like the 50s or 60s. I'm sure somebody out there knows that information, but we're operating on the old system. Remember when you used to take this is a while ago, but you used to take a disc and you'd put it in, and then like you'd pull out a piece of Bubblicious, stick it in your mouth, and then like a half hour later, the everything would connect and be like, and then your computer would get up and start running. There's a hamster on a wheel over to the side. That was Flintstones. But in general, when we're operating, I went on a tangent there. I know that. Okay, I'm back. So in general, when we're dealing with old operating systems, you'll notice, because the relationship will feel like this, like, oh, I'm batting, like you're batting heads with people. So I'm going to find some more songs here and I'll put them in, like the fight songs, like probably Elton John comes to mind at first. Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. So sometimes people get into that fight place, that anger place, from drinking a lot, or sometimes anger looks like complete silence, right? Like, I don't even know how to communicate right now, so I'm just going to shut the person off and walk away because I have absolutely no boundaries. And it leads into this place of this deep isolation, right? So we have this part of ourselves that always wants to keep us protected, no matter what. It's always like, I am on high alert and I will always keep you safe. which generally means I'm going to keep you as far away from humanity as possible. And so with that, I think oftentimes for me, my experience has been, I'll kind of like, my tone will change. I'll be in some kind of a conversation, and then somebody will say something, and my operating system from 30 years ago gets like on high alert. And then I'm like, oh, I got something to say about that. And I come back with a snappy remark, right? It's my reaction. So what's going on with that? Okay, so there's this internal like rage against the machine kind of rage going on. And then I don't know necessarily how to express it in a way that I'm not going to vomit on the person in front of me, like, yeah! And so I'm like, okay, I have two choices. This is part of what's going on chemically in the brain. You have two choices when you don't have a lot of tools. The first one is shut the person down and like shut off the conversation. And so that can look like this. Like, I'm just not going to talk to the person, or ghost them, or like you just don't even know what to do with that conflict. And then the second one is the fight, right? Like, oh, it's going down, right? And so how do you start like expanding when there's anger involved? And a part of that is being able to drop in with songs, because the more that we're able to drop into these little pieces of society through the arts, the easier it is on the brain chemicals to not pull us right back into that emotional currency of change for 50 cents. Is like you get 2 quarters instead of an array of all kinds of pennies, except for right now because I don't have change anymore. But anyway, that's another tangent. So getting back into it, when you're feeling those emotions, the easiest way, and the way that I really enjoy the most, is start to look at emotions through music. Finding your top performers and figuring out, like, what was it about that song that really drew me in and that I got really connected to and that I can really kind of sink into. And then so there's the core emotions, and then there's the emotions that kind of are on the outside part of that spectrum. If you're wanting to look up the emotions wheel. I'll type it in here. Emotions wheel under images, and you'll be able to see like what are those emotions wheels. And then there's a covering. There's all of the emotions that kind of right over the top of that. So when people are like, I'm really jealous, it's like, wow, well, that could be angry, that could be fear, that could be sadness. And so the more that you're able to have language around the emotions that are coming up, the more stable the conversations can become, and the more safe people can feel in conversation with you. Unless you're not into that. Maybe you're into like, let's throw it all up in the air and see what happens, because that can be an adventure as well. So I have a couple more songs that I'm going to add here tonight. Please type in like, what fuels you? What songs really fuel you? I found this one. This is there's this band called Pillars, and at the end of the song, there's one note. I must listen to the song 3 hours. When I drive home, like, oh, you and me, like, just he commits to one note in the song. And what I'm asking for in society is just commit, right? Just commit to showing up emotionally with your heart. It's okay if it's messy. You don't have to figure it all out right away. It's just this like deep commitment to nurturing, showing up in vibrancy, because it's fun. Like, instead of just being in this place of, well, it's not, let me take that back. It's not so fun when the only choices that you have are vomiting on people like me. Sorry, let me clean that up. That's not fun. And isolation, that is not fun. But when there's a depth to it, and when you're able to get into that depth in those larger conversations, and you're able to like feel the oxygen in the back of your shoulder blades and going down to your lower back, like, I get it. You know, there's a vibrancy to that. When I was thinking about the name of the show, True EQ, you know, the equalizer and the monad, like how do we get into this place of bringing together sine and cosine, bringing together the full spectrum and the totality of who we are and what we're capable of as human beings and human doings in order to bring that vibrancy back to humanity. So the reason why I chose this idea of Lighthouse a while ago, when I was sitting with young people from the time that I was a young person, I was able to recognize that music allows a vehicle for us to be able to express what's going on internally. And art and dance, like the arts allow a vehicle for us to be able to express what's going on internally with all of that dialogue when we may not be able to yet verbalize exactly what's going on. And it's that penetrative, it's the oxygen coming back into the room, or when your lover walks out of the room and you feel like the oxygen is gone, like it's that depth. And so the more that we're able to listen to music and pull in and pool resources as communities, it helps to listen to other people's narratives as a welcome, as a, I really see you, I really get you. So I would really encourage you this week, as this week progresses, start looking at and start thinking about when you're hearing songs, think about where they're touching you, what's going on for you emotionally. And if you can, think about, like, if it's an older song, think about the first time that you heard that song and drop back in to what comes up for me emotionally during that time frame in my life. So those are just a few of the little pieces to start with the brain chemicals. There's a more scientific term for it, but for now we'll go with the brain chemicals. As we start to focus these energies, how is it that we're shifting? How is it that we're pulling resources? And how is it that I can expand more in order to show up more on behalf of my community, because we're really needed right now? Dang, that girl could talk. So that's like 22 minutes, just straight talk. There we go. All right, I think I have a couple more songs here. As I said, I'd love to be able to see what songs you're picking. I wanted to just type in a few more of these. The idea with these is when you're in conversations with people, again, this comes from Love Coach Academy. I'm sure people talk about it as well, but how to not deny, defend, diminish, distract, or dominate when you're in conversation with people. Just little things to be able to piece your life together this week. Like, how am I really showing up in full frequency and full vibrancy? Oh, there we go. Hey, Chris, good to see you. EQ changes, balances. So we do this with ourselves, and I guess it's how we do what we do. Yes, do you have an example of that in a song, Chris? That was what we were, yeah. So I'd be interested in finding out, like, what songs come up for you around this. For me, like when we're on stage, when I'm writing, I noticed the easiest draw for me is to talk about conflict, like what is conflicted within the world, and what are the areas that people really don't want to talk about, because that's really nourishing for me as a musician to be able to create around. And so I listen to the stories of people, and then I take the narratives that have, and the storylines that they've lived within their life, and that's where I kind of start to pull in, like, what is the undercurrent of what's happening here? What are their deepest, what am I guessing and imagining are their deepest desires? And from that is where I'm able to really, like, submerge myself, and it helps with empathy building. So often people get into relationships and they may not necessarily know, how to be in deep empathy with other humans. And I've certainly gone through that. I'm like, what are you crying about? Or like, why are you so upset about this? And so I revert back to somewhere between 9 and 14 on my empathy scale of when I didn't have much empathy for other people. And that's one of my, that's a big charge for me, is like, sometimes I'm in this place. There was this video a while ago. Let me know if you saw it. It was this woman who's sitting there and she has like a nail in her forehead, a literal nail in her forehead. And her boyfriend or partner or somebody's sitting there and she's like, I have a really bad headache. And he's like, you have a nail in your forehead. And she's like, no, I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to listen. I have a throbbing headache. And he's like, yeah, but you have a nail in your forehead. So I'm really not, like, when it comes to empathy, that's kind of one of the areas that's a blind spot for me. I'm more like a transformational person. Like, look at your stuff, and where are you willing to shift your life in order to show up? I'm not really the person for the, oh yeah, you got a nail in your forehead. Yeah, it looks really painful. I can do it. I can do it for like some period of time, but by like day 3, I'm like, dude, you have a nail in your forehead. We got it. We just pull it out and then we can have a conversation, and don't come back to me unless you pulled it out for us to have this conversation. So I recognize that like that's, but I am learning how to just sit with people more, because eventually the deeper the empathy, the person soon recognizes that they have a nail in their forehead, and that they can get to a place of pulling it out themselves. And then, often it's just the process of sitting with people, especially right now, sitting with humanity and being in this place of, oh, nails, forehead. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. And then how do we, over positivity. All right. There we go, Chris. So for me, when these things are coming up, how can I grow? How can I learn more? And when we do it through music, it allows a much deeper and much richer experience if you're able to listen in and get that vibration happening inside of your body, and then start to recognize, where am I registering this? Pink Floyd, for anybody who digs Pink Floyd, I think Pink Floyd have like the stupendous epicness about them. Muse is another one. I can find some of the Muse albums and put them on here. But that deep, I'm willing to, on behalf of humanity, come into a place where I'm going to take these resources and I'm going to be better at self-sourcing and taking care of myself. And I'm going to find nourishing ways to interact with humanity, because humanity needs it right now across the board. So that's it for me for the evening. And I trust all is remarkable in your world. This week, Spirituality Gone Wild. They have all kinds of shows twice a day, a couple times a day. It might be more than that by now. So I'd like to thank Spirituality Gone Wild for this tonight, and Love Coach Academy. This is Radiance, and you've reached us from True EQ on Lighthouse Affects. If you know musicians who would like to have something to say regarding emotional health and who are really serving community, please let me know about it. I'd love to have them on the show. In the coming weeks, we have Michael Ark coming in from, he'll be joining us from England. And then another friend of mine out of Scotland from Comedy of Errors will be joining us as well. Some prog rock, some reggae. Hopefully Tommy will be back with us. He's in the punk scene. So hopefully he'll be back with us. Sorry he couldn't be here this evening. Sending lots of love to each of you. And there we go. Thanks, Chris. Thank you. I send lots of love to you, and blessings for your week ahead. Drop me a note. You can also find me at Where can you find me? You can find me at Lighthouse Affects, Lighthouse AFFECTS. That's how you can find me. Lots of blessings.